around 5:30, we'll get on with the hearing. Last meeting, the meeting was temporarily suspended so that until the hearing could be held. Mrs. Herrod died May 22nd, 1986, and her will and contract are on record in the county clerk's office. The property had appointed R. Edward Harvard as executor of the estate. The appraisement has been filed, but Mr. Harvard has never closed the estate, and Ms. Loomis, on behalf of her client and the other heirs, are seeking to have Mr. Harvard removed as executor and that he receive no compensation as executor. Who wants to speak first?
Just let me know wherever it's most appropriate for you if I can address everybody from over here. Essentially, I believe the petition was originally presented on August 9th, at which the temporary order was entered by the county court, temporary suspending Mr. Harbert from acting as executor or doing any other actions. After receiving a copy of that, my office did take that down to Cornerstone Bank as well, so that they would know. It is, I do represent Mr. Willard Herrod. He's one of the original heirs, or Fannie Mae Herrod. Sitting next to him is his brother Melvin Herrod, who is one of the original heirs, and both of these gentlemen are the heir to another one of the original heirs who is now deceased. Between them, they own, I think, 3/8 of the estate, and then sitting next to them is Mr. Robert Lee Herrod, who is the son of Virgil D. Herrod, who is one of the original heirs that have come forth today. But again, Mr. Herrod brought this petition while he came to my office and asked to bring this petition before you because he believes that 26 years has been an incredibly long time to have everything settled. And primarily of concern is the family farm, which was part of the estate, that he would like to get settled. Recently, there was a large pipeline deal that went across the family property. He couldn't get the details of it. They seem to be up in the air when he asked, and there's been no accounting that has been provided. So we don't know what type of deal or where or what yet. But the authority that I'm asking the county commission to rely on is basically in the statutes. It requires that a fiduciary has to settle an account within 5 years. If the fiduciary is not going to settle an account within 5 years, then the county commission may grant an extension. But if you do the math, that would have been in 1991, and I believe Ms. Rogers had informed me that there was no extension granted at that time, and even if there would have been, I doubt it would have continued on to 2012. With that, the statute goes on to say if a fiduciary does not establish good cause for why he was not making final settlement as determined by the commission, which means that you have the discretion to decide whether or not at that time it was going to be discaused, he is discharged with his duties. Any fiduciary failing to comply when he is personally liable or for waste or has cause to make a final settlement shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. This is what the code says. And the sheriff of the county is then called to take charge of the estate and proceed to make a final settlement of the estate in an expeditious manner. Although it was not contained within the petition, if you do move on to look at the statute that talks about when a sheriff is appointed, it also, and that's under 44-1-11, when a sheriff to administer the estate, it does allow for the county clerk at any time, however, afterward, to revoke such order and allow another person to qualify as the executor or administrator. So it would be our position under the law that the administrator or executor would have to be removed simply for the fact that such a long time has gone by and that only 5 years is granted or allowed under the statute. And if not, then basically they are to be removed and the sheriff is to become the executor. And then we would also secondarily ask that the county clerk, because this is not a case where there are not people that cannot step forward, that the county clerk make a determination that it could be one of the executors. I know Mr. Herrod would like to serve, to be charged with the administration of the estate. And then the last thing that we wish to address with this petition. And in the original petition, which I can surely get more copies if you need later or today, we're asking that there be no payment for services for having the estate open for 26 years. And I think, as I read before at our last hearing on this matter, it's basically under the case law of West Virginia, it's up to the discretion of the county commission to determine what, if any, sort of compensation is reasonable. And it says specifically from a particular case, there is no law which prescribes what county commissions shall be allowed as executor, trustee, or other fiduciary. The allowance or refusal of commission rests in the sound discretion of the court under the case. I have the cite for that in this document. And in determining whether or not a commission shall be rendered for reasonable compensation, the county court must, quote, weigh the character, scope, and efficiency of the service rendered, whether they were beneficial to the estate, and whether they were within or without the ordinary routine which would be expected of one serving in such a capacity. That's a 1938 West Virginia case. It would be Mr. Herrod's position that, one, he is troubled by the fact that the family farm and the house has fallen into disrepair. Two, that there were deals that were served for a pipeline which they were not party to that decision. And in some ways that does change the lay of the land, what you can do with the land. We don't know how far down those pipes are, if you can put a tractor over them. And again, I don't know how that affects the value of the farm, where it is located. But Mr. Herrod would like you to take that into effect in making your decision whether it's not to award fees or partial representation as a fiduciary in this estate, and whether or not his actions were ordinary. Mr. Herrod contends that the actions were not ordinary, as it statutorily sets and prescribes a time of 5 years, limited without any sort of county commission permission, close towards the end of those 5 years, seeking for additional time. So we're asking the county commission to determine today to have a removal based on that situation, and to appoint Mr. Herrod as the executor, and to not allow for there to be any fees taken out of the estate. And we're not sure what the resources of the estate are, but that none be apportioned to Mr. Harbert for his time and delay, and for other factors as mentioned before. I don't know if you have any questions or.
Do you have any questions?
No,
Thank you.
thank you.
Are you here to represent Mr.
Yes,
You can speak now
okay.
with your side.
Well, I've brought my materials that I've accumulated over the years with me, and I have no problem with walking away from the thing with no compensation. There's like $86,500 and something in the bank, in the account from those gas lines and so forth. And the property's still there, so I'm prepared to sell that place twice, at least twice. And last time, Mr. Herrod got in touch with the real estate company, told me it was him on it. Didn't hear that I didn't have the authority to sell it. And the real estate company withdrew their offer and so forth. And I'm just I'll be glad to get rid of it, is the long and the short of it. And don't expect any compensation. So, that's about all I have to say about it.
Thank you. Executive session to discuss this. Executive session to discuss this. This time I'd like a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move we go into executive session to discuss this matter.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, signify aye. Do you want us?
Everybody that's sat here